What's up guys, User here. Today I'm bringing you a pretty beefy video. This is my maximum football franchise guide. It is going to cover literally everything that you may have questions about or you can't figure out on your own, and I'm going to show you how to set up your franchise similar to mine, my personal recommendations for it, and everything that you need to know to get started. We're going to be talking about starting a franchise from scratch, integrating Dynasty, importing custom teams. I'm going to explain rosters, where things live, setting up a draft and a draft class, trading players, cutting and signing players, basic roster management, as well as some other things that we'll try to get answers to. Let's get started. We're going to start all the way at the very beginning. Now, I play my game on the Gridiron difficulty, and as you can see, this is the slider set that I currently use. I'll go through a little bit and show you guys everything. I turn my ball carrier IQ up a little bit because I feel like the AI needs a little bit of help of navigating some of these run lanes. Run, pass, block, all of that's got to be negative 50. Block shedding, defensive IQ plus 50. I've heard rumors that the zone defense and man defense with the negative 15 actually helps it play better. I have kind of just stuck with that for a while. I get pretty decent results with what I kind of use it for. Break press, you have to turn it down all the way to even have a chance to play coverage in this game. Pass rush plus 50. The offense is still super overpowered. Blocking, they just don't have enough tools to get off blocks. Fumbles, got to change unless you absolutely need to. Alright guys, so here's the franchise screen. We're going to go through and basically just pick one of these to start it. Now, I like to follow the pro rules for like the NFL. I have 32 teams, 17 game schedule. Everything I leave basically defaulted here to follow along with the pro rules. As you can see here, there's a ton of ball, overtime settings. These are all pro. I'm just leaving them defaulted. Now, two things here. I usually change this play clock reduced down to about 20 seconds because pre-snap, when you get to the line of scrimmage, that's where the play clock will start. I usually play 6-minute quarters. I've heard people have good results with 10. I prefer 6 with the accelerated clock on. Now, this weekly player upgrade thing is set to automatic. I usually leave it automatic just because depending on what type of coaches you pick, they will automatically assign XP to specific players on your roster. I think that feels more organic to me, like natural progression. You can still go in and assign players upgrades with the XP, but that's at your discretion. Next screen is your team selection. Now, this is where the defaulted franchise teams live. You can go through and select one of them. That is also fine. If you want to upload a custom team, this is where that takes place. Now, you can replace your team or all teams or some teams. You can do whatever you want here. If you've created a custom team, you can upload them, and I recommend you edit the team fully before uploading it here at this screen. Customize your team. That is done from the customization tab on the home screen in the team customizations. I'd really recommend that you edit your logos, your jerseys, your uniforms, your team, your roster in this screen before uploading it to the franchise mode. Next, we're looking at your coach selection. So yes, you get to pick a head coach, an offensive and a defensive coordinator. Now, you could pick basically whatever you want here. I don't really notice much of a difference between the type of scheme that the head coach likes to run from an offensive and a defensive perspective. You can manually change those later. What I'm looking at here is the budget strategy. Now, if you're looking at a star-focused coach, he's going to build your best players and make them even better. That's where the automatic roster will basically use the XP for. Balance focused does a little bit of both, kind of like those mid-tier guys. And chemistry focused, I believe, focuses on some of the lower players to help bring them along. So if you want a star power team, you know, guys that are going to develop players, these are the strategies from the budget here. If you see that, that's going to kind of round out your roster from an automatic perspective. Select your coach, you're going to see this Dynasty synchronization screen. Now, this is where if you have a Dynasty, you can sync it here. And if you don't want a Dynasty to connect to your franchise, you don't even need to watch the rest of this video. You can just jump in and start playing. You're done. If you want to sync a Dynasty, which I highly recommend, and I'll explain why in a moment, but make sure you select a Dynasty. And if you do not have a Dynasty, I'm going to explain to you why that's vital to the franchise mode. Now, without syncing a Dynasty to your franchise, normally this is what your draft is going to look like. You're going to have a ton of players rated in the 90s, 96s, 94s, 92s. Even deep into a draft, you're going to be able to get multiple rounds of these 90 rated players and, you know, 86s, 88s. That's what your drafts are going to look like without aligning with a Dynasty. Now, if you want your drafts to look a little bit more like this, 82s, 77s, you know, mostly sub 82 to 79 to lower rated players, you're going to want to align with a Dynasty, and we're going to talk through that next. Unfortunately, when you start your franchise, you're going to be stuck with the default senior class that's going to be coming in. There's nothing to do to change that. What you can do to fix that after year 2 is to go into your already existing Dynasty or to create one. Now, if you need to create one, just open up the Dynasty. I would pick any team, and then basically what you want to do is go to the Simulate Season screen here. Now, what you want to do is get to the end of the championships, everything. You want to make sure all of these are green until you get to the off-season portion of your Dynasty. Now, this is where it's going to ask you to export. So here, we're going to click Advance Off-Season. If you click this screen, it's going to bring you to a few options here. Play a high school all-star game. Ignore all of that. We want to do Advance to Preseason. Now, once you advance to preseason, here's where it's going to ask you to export your draft class. And once you click that, you're going to go ahead and basically you can confirm your seniors here, do whatever you want to do. And you want to basically hit right to get over here to export draft class. You're going to hit X. And here's where you're going to be able to name the draft class, whatever you want to call it, that's fine. Once you export that draft class, your Dynasty is going to show you a screen basically saying you're advancing to the next season, your Dynasty. Now, what we can do is we can jump back over to our franchise here. As you can see, we're still in Season 1. I just highly recommend everybody that you just simulate through Season 1 if you want to bring your own draft class in and do that kind of stuff. So, as you can see here, we are all the way through the season. The next step is to advance to draft. Now, this is a very important step that we cannot mess up. See here, this is the end of the draft. I just quickly went through it, whatever. These are the end of the draft class players, the top picks. You could ignore that. Down here at the bottom right, you can see Finish Draft. Go ahead and click on that button. Now what you're going to get here is the ability to import those seniors that you just exported from your Dynasty. So you want to click X on this button, and once you click X, it's going to just load you straight into the following season. There's no confirmation. Don't be alarmed. It worked. Confirm this from the front office screen. You can go to the transactions, and you could go to the draft class. Now this will show you all of the seniors that you just imported for that season. So in terms of your Dynasty in your franchise, you can't think of it from 2025 to 2025 to 26 and so on. You almost have to play the game a year ahead in your Dynasty and a year behind in your franchise to keep your imported players drafting properly. Alright, so we have our Dynasty senior class imported, and we're getting ready to go into the draft. So what are we doing here? You want to go into transactions and you want to go to draft class. Now this is going to show you all of the seniors that are imported into the current season that you're in, bearing that you followed the steps previously. This transactions draft class screen, I would recommend going through and finding the players that you would like, and pressing the X button will allow you to basically add them to your shortlist. I would recommend going through and finding a few players that you want to shortlist. That way when you get to the draft, you'll have a clear list of players that you've predetermined that you want to pick up. Okay, so now that you have your short list of players, you understand your needs, you go into the draft here. So you're going to start the draft process, hit X, and it's going to jump you in here. So now when you're on the clock, as you can see, I was on the clock here. Here's my short list of players. Now instead of having to sort through all of these guys with a minute, you only get a minute to make your selection, by the way. You could quickly go to your preferred players list and basically sort through the players that way, so that you're able to quickly and efficiently jump to the guys that you want. You could still sort through and go find players outside of that list, that's not an issue. But as far as building the draft and understanding depth at positions and just different things, you want to make sure that you have your preferred players list. Now up here is going to be your teams. Everybody is going to go their 32 picks. This is basically your clock here that you're looking at as far as like how much time you have. You could sort players here as well. And here is your team composition going into the draft. As you can see here, I only had one quarterback. I had no wide receivers. You know, I basically decimated this team so that it forced me to draft and build through free agency. Now, of course, as you make picks, it'll show you all of your selections here. It'll show you the player and their overall as well. So when you launch into franchise, you're going to see 5 main tabs here: front office, franchise, coaches, sports press, and settings. Let's go through these tabs one by one and explain where things live. So we're going to start with player personnel. Now in here is where your contracts for your signed players, and essentially a listing of all of the players that you currently have on your roster. There's a morale tab, which really doesn't do a whole lot, honestly. I don't really mess with that a whole lot. You also have your depth chart that lives within here as well. So looking at your depth chart, you can see you have your offense, defense, special teams. This essentially is everyone that you have signed to your active roster from the contracts page, and you know, it shows you who is starting, who is backups. That kind of stuff is where you can dictate those you know, your roster settings from there. In the transactions tab, you're going to have your free agents list, which is where you're going to be able to negotiate and sign players to contracts or add them to your practice squad. As you can see here, it gives you a base salary, the duration, those types of pieces of information. You're also going to have your draft class, which is your seniors that you've just imported, and you're going to have a waiver section. Now, this is some of the other teams when they cut players. You can basically go into the waivers and claim them that way. This essentially adds them to your roster immediately following you know, the pending week. So you have a retired players tab, which is just a non-factor. It doesn't matter. It just shows you what players retired. Again, nothing major. Coaches tab here is the same as this tab, and I'll explain that in a second. Now we're going to go into the staff tab. Now this one's very important. You can see here you have a doctor, a marketing person, and an accountant. Now your doctor is where you can go to view your players that are on that are injured or on IR. The marketing and accounting is very vital as well. So in the accounting, this is basically where you're going to be able to see all of your income. You can click these basically these little tabs on this income report to see them show up here in the chart. And it'll also show you your expenses there at the top. So you can see everything that is basically coming out week to week and account for that as far as what your salaries and how your bottom line is affected here during gameplay. The other person here, the marketing guy, you want to basically go in here and make sure that these 3 sponsor spots are filled. They are not filled by default. So you need to go in here click X on these, go through and click a few sponsors to bring in, additional revenue to your franchise. This is very vital that you make sure that you remember to do this step. Now from the franchise tab, you're going to have team customization. You can go in here and edit your uniforms and some of your basic information. Stadium management is also a pretty vital tool here. This is where you can go through, set your ticket prices. You could see what tickets were sold last week. Down at the bottom right, you could see you can also upgrade your stadium. I don't know if that actually physically works. I haven't tried it yet. You can also set your concession stands, pricing as well as the merchandise stuff. So this is where you can go in and play with all those settings and basically change how you want to make your revenue for your team. There is also a player improvements tab here as well. So in here is where you can go through and upgrade your players. You could basically spend your XP on them in this screen as well. Position installation is essentially how you upgrade your facilities, I believe. You can basically upgrade that using your budget in your finances to upgrade these individual facilities. I believe this helps make your players better. As far as like using XP, it cuts the cost on how much it costs to upgrade like a quarterback's passing or a player's stiff arm, those kind of things. So coming in here, raising these will help lower the cost and spending your XP for your players in the roster to upgrade them. There's also a practice, which you could just earn random XP with offense and defense. Team history just shows you your win-loss record and your coach's win-loss record for your duration of the franchise. Coaches tab, you'll find your coach challenge now. This essentially gives you kind of specific in-game tasking that you can complete to also accrue XP here to upgrade the coaches from these screens. You also have player management, which is basically where you can also go look at your roster. If you sign players to your practice roster, this is where they live so that you can basically bring them up to the main roster. Another depth chart lives here. And you could also, this is where your trades live as well for your players. So basically you could go through, you could see your sent and received trades, and here's where you can kind of go through and manage that. We'll talk more about that later. The sports press tab is essentially just a standings, schedules and results, stats and awards. The sidebar here is your max social. It actually shows you kind of like a pretty cool, like Twitter-like looking kind of like readout for your social medias, I guess. Here's a look at your standings. It breaks it down by the Federal, Continental, and basically not the AFC East, North, South, and West. So that's essentially what lives in that tab. The settings tab is where you can change the initial setup of things from your franchise setup. So you could basically change the how many minutes in a quarter, if you want to switch back from automatic to manual player upgrades, 2-minute warning, just some basic settings that the franchise is using to actually play the games week to week. To cut a player, we're going to go to player personnel from front office. You're going to highlight the player that you want to cut, and then you're going to hit the square button. A player, we're going to go to the front office tab, transactions, we're going to go to free agents. Now you could select any of these players. As you can see, they start with a salary demand. Now, I've not had luck with that. I think the salary request is pretty broken. Normally you can go through and try to sign some of these guys. I have a lot of issues with it. Once you kind of set their expectations and what you want to do, you could also sign them to the practice roster from here. Signing to the practice roster will add them to the practice roster portion of the game. If you already have a 53-man roster and you want to add players to that, this is also how you do that. Now at the end, you're going to go ahead and hit X to offer a contract. Usually they're going to decline, or they'll give you a different response. If you sign them, it'll also notify you here in the screen and add them straight to your roster that way. The coaches player management, you can go to the practice roster tab. So from the free agents, this is where those players will go if you offer them practice squad. you can go in here and activate them. Now it shows you here some basic information. At the bottom you can see there's a triangle to activate the player, or you can outright cut them with square button, but you have 3 activations before you actually have to sign them to your official roster for your 53 man. But if you want players that you don't want other teams to access, this is where you can store those players if they agree to sign to the practice roster. From the waiver screen, if you're having issues with signing free agents, I'd recommend going in here. It'll show you basically what team the player's from and their overall and just some basic information about them. At the bottom right, you can hit square to put a claim in for this player, and essentially that will then add them directly to your active roster. But player management, here you can go in and start a trade. So as you can see here, we could propose a new trade, and also it'll show you if you received any. Now once you go in, you hit X, you could select the team that you want to trade with. As you can see here, it'll show you the team needs, so you could basically kind of go through and understand if you have an abundance of running backs or something, you know, the Haulers would be a team that would, you know, be more prone to trade a player like that. Once you pick a team here, what we're going to do is go in, it'll show you what you're offering and what they're, you know, what you're requesting from this team. So here you want to go through, select your player. It'll also show you all of your draft picks here. Same with this team. It'll also show you what their needs are, if they have anything specific, and their draft picks in that box as well. So you could go through their roster, see exactly what they have, select picks, do whatever you need to do to try to sway them to make these trades. Now they do remember things, which is kind of interesting. The AI is really smart in this aspect. They will also come to you with several trades, and some of them are insane, but it'll also show you salary and stuff. But I have had a ton of success with getting picks this way, getting an abundance going into the trade, kind of like trading some of my excess players that I do not want for specific team needs. And this is, you know, this screen shows you kind of what's in favor, and you know, if it rejects, it rejects, or if it goes through, it'll show you those players and what happens from there. Alright guys, holy shit. Well, that's basically everything I could come up with, all the headaches I've endured through franchise mode. I've tried to cover everything as in depth as I could. I'm sure there's going to be some things I missed. If you have any requests to see anything specifically, put them in the comments. This is maybe my first iteration of this. It could change in the future, but for now, this is the ultimate franchise guide for Maximum Football. It's your boy User, and I'm out.